On a live Tuesday night broadcast with tens of millions watching, Stephen Colbert looked across the desk at Donald Trump and pulled the pin on a grenade that had been sitting untouched for 20 years. What came next wasn't just an interview, it was a detonation. The Ed Sullivan Theater on Broadway had seen legendary nights, but the energy inside Studio 8H that Tuesday felt different from the moment the doors opened. The audience could feel it in their chests before a single camera rolled. There was something electric in the air, something sharp and charged, like the atmosphere right before a storm breaks. The stage lights burned hotter than usual. The cameras were live and hungry. Every seat was filled, and the crowd buzzed with the kind of nervous energy that only comes when people sense they are about to witness something they will never forget. Stephen Colbert walked out to his desk with the calm of a man who had already decided what tonight was going to be. He adjusted his jacket, took his seat, and smiled at the crowd. The smile was warm. The eyes were something else entirely. Donald Trump entered seconds later. He came in the way he always did. Shoulders back, chin raised, moving through the space like he owned the air inside it. He acknowledged the audience with the practiced ease of a man who had performed that exact entrance 10,000 times. He sat down across from Colbert, crossed his arms loosely, and smiled. A big, comfortable smile. A man-in-control smile. But if anyone looked closely enough, they would have noticed something off about his eyes. They weren't relaxed. They were tracking, moving, reading the room the way a fighter reads a ring before the bell rings. Colbert opened the way he always opened. Light, easy, bipartisan swipes that made both sides of the audience chuckle. He poked at Congress, teased the media cycle, and landed two clean jokes that got genuine laughs. Trump played along. He nodded, laughed on cue, and delivered a couple of sharp one-liners that earned him scattered applause. The audience began to relax slightly. Then Colbert steered. "Mr. President," he said, his tone still conversational, still relaxed. "You've always been big on family values. How's everyone doing these days?" It was the most innocent sentence of the night. That's exactly why three people in the front row sat up straighter the moment it left his mouth. Trump leaned back a little. His smile stayed in place. His shoulders didn't. "Doing great, Stephen. Better than ever." He spread his hands wide. "My family sticks together. Unlike a lot of people in this business, we don't turn on each other when things get uncomfortable." There was a clear razor tucked inside those last four words. Everyone heard it. A soft warning dressed as a compliment. Colbert just raised an eyebrow. "Speaking of family," Colbert said, his voice still casual, "I came across some interesting photographs recently. Old ones. Private events. Late 2005. Thought we might..." He didn't get to finish. Trump leaned forward hard, and when he spoke, the warmth was completely gone. "You know what, Stephen? You've been sitting behind that desk for years, pretending to be the smartest guy in the room. But let's be honest, you've never spent a day outside a television studio in your life. You don't know how the real world works. Not even a little." The audience sucked in a sharp breath, the sound moving through the rows like a wave. Someone in the third row whispered something. Nobody laughed. For a full 2 seconds, Colbert said nothing. He sat perfectly still, looking Trump dead in the eyes, letting the silence fill the entire studio. Then a smile crossed his face. Not a warm one, a controlled one. The kind of smile that says, "I already knew you'd do that." "If I'm the puppet, Mr. President," Colbert said quietly, "I have to wonder who's been pulling the strings on your family for 20 years. Or are you just hoping nobody ever asks?" Trump threw his head back and laughed. A big, broad laugh. His right hand gripped the arm of his chair so hard the tendons in his wrists stood out like cables under the skin. The laugh was too loud, too fast. Nobody in the studio was laughing with him. Colbert laughed for exactly 3 seconds. Then he cut through it. "Let's talk about October 2005. He paused. Just one beat. "Let's talk about Ivanka." The studio didn't go quiet gradually. It dropped into silence instantly, like someone had yanked a plug from the wall. The audience didn't murmur. They didn't shift. They stopped. Trump's smile died mid-expression. His face didn't cycle through emotions. It simply reset, going flat, going cold, going hard. He leaned forward until the front legs of his chair almost lifted off the floor. His eyes locked onto Colbert with something beyond anger. Something older than anger. Colbert turned to his producer with a single calm nod. "Put them up." 3 photographs appeared on the floor-to-ceiling monitor behind the desk. High resolution, professionally lit. October 2005, private event, a crowd of well-dressed guests, and there, center frame in every image, was Ivanka Trump. She wore a sleek black dress, and there was absolutely no hiding what was plainly, undeniably visible. Her belly was rounded and full. Her posture carried the unmistakable shift of a woman 5, maybe 6 months along. She was smiling at the guests around her. She looked healthy. She looked radiant. She looked pregnant. The audience reacted like a single organism. Gasps broke out across the rows in a rippling chain. Hands flew to mouths. Eyes went wide. People leaned forward, squinting, needing to confirm that what they were seeing was real and not some trick of the lights. Colbert spoke before the reaction could settle. These photographs were reviewed by 3 independent forensic image analysts. All 3 reached the same conclusion: authentic, no digital manipulation, no AI generation. The metadata, the lighting geometry, and the date verification all align perfectly with October 2005. Trump didn't let another syllable land. He slammed an open palm down on the arm of his chair and pointed at the screen with the aggression of a man trying to knock something over with his finger. Fake news, total garbage, AI-generated garbage. His voice was booming and unsteady all at once. My team will be in federal court tomorrow morning. You, the network, every single one of these so-called experts. Every last person involved in this is getting sued. Every one of you. You hear me? The audience stirred like a disturbed hive. People whispered urgently. Some shifted in their seats. Trump's face had gone red, a deep flush climbing from his jaw to his temples. He kept glaring at the screen, as if he could erase the images through sheer will. Colbert waited. Let him finish. Let the room breathe one shallow breath. Then he pressed play. On the monitor, a woman appeared. Face blurred, background neutral, voice untouched. I was there that evening. I spoke with Ivanka. She was 5, maybe 6 months along. You could see it in the way she moved, the way she kept her hand on her belly. There was no question about what you were looking at. The clip ran for 12 seconds and ended with a clean cut. The studio went very quiet. Trump let out a single sharp laugh, a forced, pressured sound, like air escaping from a tire. His voice wavered at the edges. He swallowed. His hand, still gripping the chair, had gone pale at the knuckles. For the first time all night, underneath the red flush on his face, there was something else showing, something he was working hard to hide. Beads of sweat had appeared at his hairline under the studio lights. Colbert leaned in slightly. He held Trump's gaze across the desk, the way you hold the wrist of a man who is trying to pull away from you. Mr. President, he said slowly, each word given its full weight. We are not done. We are just getting started. The audience did not react. They sat completely still. The tension in Studio 8H had passed through discomfort and arrived somewhere much heavier. Colbert turned back to the monitor. New slide. Clean, clinical, devastating. Here is the timeline as it stands. His voice was flat, informational, and almost professorial. October 2005. Ivanka is visibly, undeniably pregnant at a private event. Then, just weeks later, Melania Trump announces her own pregnancy publicly. Barron Trump was born in March 2006. He paused. The dates are very tight, Mr. President, very tight. Murmurs crept through the audience. People were starting to put the pieces together themselves, and the picture they were building made them uncomfortable in a way that was different from entertainment discomfort. This felt real. According to our sources, Colbert continued, Ivanka gave birth privately. Melania then assumed the public identity of the pregnancy. The story the country has known for 2 decades, that Barron is Melania's biological son, doesn't hold against this timeline. Before Trump could respond, 2 new pieces of evidence appeared on screen simultaneously. The first was a document, a hospital billing record from early 2006. Certain sensitive details were blurred, but enough was visible that dates, charges, and a delivery entry were clearly legible. And the name on the document did not match the public story. The second was audio, a woman's voice, careful and deliberate, a former nurse. I was on shift the night the baby was delivered. The mother of record on the paperwork was Melania Trump. The woman who actually gave birth that night was younger, significantly younger. Everyone on our floor knew who she was. We were told to keep quiet and to make sure the documentation stayed consistent with the official version. The clip ended. The studio broke. Not in laughter, not in chaos, but in the sound of 200 people processing something simultaneously, and none of them fully able to. Loud whispers erupted on all sides. Heads turned. Hands grabbed the hands of the person sitting next to them. Trump shoved himself halfway out of his chair. You're destroying my family. His voice was raw, stripped of the performance layer that usually lived over everything he said. This is a witch hunt, and you know it. Every document, every recording, every so-called witness, fabricated. All of it was fabricated to hurt my daughter and hurt my wife. Shame on you, Colbert. Shame on everyone in this building who helped you do this. His finger was still pointing. His chest heaved. A crew member behind camera 3 went completely still. Colbert sat without moving, watching Trump like a man who had already seen this scene in his head and was simply observing it play out exactly as expected. When Trump finally sat back down, breathing audibly, still flushed, still shaking at the edges, Colbert looked him directly in the face and said 4 words. Then take the test. Trump's mouth opened. For just under 1 second, something moved behind his eyes that wasn't anger and wasn't confidence and wasn't anything that belonged on the face of a man with nothing to hide. His lips formed the beginning of a word, then the jaw locked shut. His gaze snapped sideways for a fraction of a second, something almost panicked in the movement, before he dragged his expression back behind the wall of fury. He said nothing. Colbert didn't wait. "I'd like to bring someone in." He pressed a button on his desk panel. A new window opened on the monitor. An older man, gray-haired, with a face built for seriousness. A man who had spent decades behind a lens documenting the private world of one of America's most powerful families. "You served as official photographer for numerous Trump family events over more than a decade," Colbert said. "Can you tell us what you witnessed on the night of that October 2005 gathering?" The photographer's voice didn't waver. "I was there the entire evening. I shot dozens of frames. Ivanka Trump was visibly, unmistakably pregnant. 5 months, probably 6. She had on a black dress, and she kept her hand on her stomach the way pregnant women do without thinking about it. A few days after the event, I received a direct call from a member of Mr. Trump's staff. They told me to delete every photograph of Ivanka from that evening. They called it a family matter and said it needed to be handled quietly. I told them I understood. I deleted the edited versions. I kept the raw originals on a separate drive. I still have them." The studio absorbed every word, and then Trump snapped. He whipped toward the back of the stage, waving both arms at the production control room. "Cut the feed. Cut him off right now. Get that man off my screen. Do it now." His voice cracked with volume. The microphone caught every distortion in it. Nothing happened. The window remained perfectly clear, perfectly live. Colbert had anticipated this exact moment. The connection was locked. No one in Trump's team, at the network or anywhere in the building, could kill it. The photographer finished without missing a single syllable. "I kept those files because I believed the truth might matter someday." Trump spun back toward Colbert, his face deep red, veins visible at his temples. "You hacked into private communications. You are a criminal. My legal team will dismantle you, this network, and every person who participated in this disaster. Every single one." His voice was still loud, but there was a tremor inside it now that hadn't been there an hour ago. Colbert clicked to the next slide. The subject line filled the screen in clear black text. "Handling the Ivanka situation. Urgent November 2005. Multiple names from Trump's inner circle are listed in the thread. One email, center of the screen, read, "We need to move quickly on the pregnancy arrangement. Melania has agreed to step forward publicly. All references to Ivanka's condition need to be removed from existing records immediately. This does not leave the circle." The studio erupted, not in gasps this time, in noise. Open, wide, uncontrolled noise. People were on their feet in sections. Voices overlapped. Hands pointed at the screen. The email was right there. Plain language from inside the Trump operation, outlining in corporate shorthand exactly what everyone had just been told. Trump stared at it. His mouth fell open slightly. His hands on the desk began to shake in a way that wasn't subtle or easy to dismiss. They were clearly, visibly trembling. Then he broke completely. He drove both palms flat onto the desk with a crack that snapped through every microphone in the studio. "Shut it down!" His voice had gone beyond anger into something raw and desperate and cracked open. "Shut the whole thing down right now! I said shut it down!" The veins in his neck were standing out. Sweat was running down the side of his face in a thin stream. His tie had pulled crooked. He was breathing in hard, audible pulls, like a man who had been running and couldn't stop. The studio was in shock, not the entertained shock of a late-night audience watching a funny bit. The real kind, the kind where you stop moving. Then Trump's face changed again. "Fine," he said suddenly, loudly. "Fine. You want the truth? Let's call Ivanka right now. Put her on. Let her shut this entire thing down herself. Ivanka." Colbert looked at him for half a second, then nodded. "All right, Mr. President, let's do that." He signaled the control room. Within moments, the monitor split, and there was Ivanka Trump, live, from what looked like a private room somewhere. She was immaculate, hair perfect, posture perfect, makeup perfect. Her eyes were not perfect. Her eyes were already on high alert, already scanning, already building the wall. "Ivanka, thank you for joining us," Colbert said. "Your father asked you to come on and set the record straight." She didn't hesitate. "This is repulsive. These photos are fabricated, the emails are fabricated, and there is not a single word of truth in anything you've put on that screen tonight. This is a coordinated attack on our family, and I will not sit quietly while you—" Colbert put the split screen up. The October 2005 photographs appeared beside the medical timeline documents. Ivanka's image at the event, the hospital records, the nurse's statement. Side by side, silent, undeniable. "Ivanka," Colbert said calmly. These photos show you in October 2005. The hospital documentation and the nurse's testimony place a delivery in early 2006. If Melania actually carried Barron, the timeline doesn't hold. Can you explain the gap? Ivanka's mouth opened and closed. Her eyes moved, the smallest, fastest movement. Off camera, a fraction to the left, back to the lens. She drew a breath. That's not. These documents are completely out of context. Her voice had lost its scaffolding. She was hesitating, building sentences that weren't finishing themselves. The practiced certainty of 30 seconds ago had developed cracks. And then the moment happened. Her eyes moved again, this time to her father's face on the other side of the split screen. And in a voice that was quiet and reflexive and completely, devastatingly automatic, she said, "Daddy, we already agreed to..." She stopped. The realization crossed her face like cold water. Too late. The studio did not react immediately. There was a delay, the way there's always a delay between lightning and thunder, while everyone's brain caught up to what their ears had just received. Then the silence was absolute. "Daddy, we already agreed to..." Trump's face went the color of something that had been left too long in the sun. He lunged forward. "Cut it! Cut the call right now! I said cut it!" The screen blinked off. Ivanka was gone. Trump sat back in his chair as the air had gone out of him. His chest heaved. His collar was soaked through. His tie hung loose and wrong. His hands sat open on the desk, palms up, the fight in them gone for the first time all night. Colbert let the silence breathe. Let it fill every corner of Studio 8H. Let every person in the room and every person watching at home sit inside those 5 unfinished words. Then he said quietly and precisely, "Mr. President, you just cut your own daughter off mid-sentence." He let that land. Was that because she was about to tell the truth? The expert Trump had no answer. Colbert gave him no time to find one. A new video window opened. Dr. Alan Kessler, forensic image analyst, laptop open, photographs already loaded. "Doctor," Colbert said, "you've been examining 4 additional photographs from that October 2005 event. Images we have not yet shown the public. What did you find?" Dr. Kessler adjusted his glasses. His voice was even and professional. "Complete analysis, pixel density, metadata authentication, lighting vector consistency, and comparative verification against confirmed authentic imagery from the same event. Every test came back the same. These photographs are genuine. No artificial generation, no digital alteration of any kind. The physical indicators visible in the images are entirely consistent with a pregnancy of approximately 5 to 6 months. They align precisely with the medical documentation already presented this evening. The new photographs materialized on screen. Different angles, different moments from that same October night. All of them telling the same story from 4 different directions, in 4 different frames of indisputable light and shadow and truth. The audience gasped the way people gasp when they see something they cannot unsee. Trump stood up. He yanked his microphone off his lapel, the snap of Velcro loud through the studio speakers. He turned toward the stage exit and began walking. "Mr. President," Colbert's voice was not raised. It didn't need to be. It cut through the studio noise with the clean authority of a man who had earned this moment and was not going to let it slip. "Please sit back down. The American people deserve to hear your response. Don't walk away." Trump stopped. His back was partially turned. His shoulders rose and fell with each heavy breath. The cameras tracked him from 3 angles. The entire studio waited, held in a single suspended second. He turned around. He walked back to the chair and sat down hard. "You don't know," he said, his voice rough and low, stripped of almost everything. "You don't know what my family has gone through. The threats, the pressure, what we've had to manage behind closed doors. You're sitting there in a nice suit under nice lights, and you have absolutely no idea what any of it actually costs." He sounded exhausted, genuinely, bone-deep exhausted. Colbert let it settle. Then help us understand, Mr. President. Why go through all of this if there was nothing to hide?" Trump stared at him, and then the sentence came out. Not shouted, not strategic, just spoken, the way words sometimes escape when a man has been holding them for 20 years, and the grip finally gives. "We did what we had to do to protect my daughter." The words landed in the silence of Studio 8H like something falling into still water. Trump's face registered it instantly, the realization that he had just said too much. The panic moved behind his eyes before the anger rushed in to cover it. But it was too late. Every person in that room, every camera, every microphone, every viewer watching live at home, all of them had just heard the same 5 words from the same mouth. "To protect my daughter." The audience broke into urgent sounds. Colbert sat quietly, watching Trump across the desk, letting those words hang in the studio air at full weight until they were permanently embedded in the walls. The recording. There's one final piece of evidence, Colbert said. He pressed play. Melania Trump's voice came through the studio speakers. A private medical visit, 2006. Her accent was unmistakable, her words careful and deliberate, and completely clear. This is not my baby. This is Ivanka's child. We are handling it this way for the family. Please make sure all records remain under my name. 20 seconds. The studio did not erupt this time. It went completely still. The kind of stillness that only comes when something irreversible has just happened in front of everyone, and everyone knows it. Several people in the audience covered their mouths. A few bowed their heads. Others simply stared forward, unmoving, their faces the faces of people who are hearing something they have no frame for. Trump came out of his chair. He came up fast and hard, pointing across the desk with a hand that was shaking visibly. "You will regret this." His voice was cracked and raw and barely recognizable as the voice that had walked into this studio an hour ago. "I swear to God, you will pay for what you've done to my family tonight, every single one of you." Colbert sat completely still. His voice, when he spoke, was quiet. "Mr. President, I'm not attacking your family." He held Trump's gaze. "I'm only showing the truth that the American people were entitled to know." Trump leaned over the desk, his last argument already forming, his mind reaching for something, anything, to stand on. "We did it for national security," he said, his voice dropping to something between a growl and a plea. "There were threats you don't know about. We had to protect the family's public image for the sake of the country. It was bigger than a personal decision. You have to understand that." Colbert pulled up the final document, an internal memo, late 2005. 2 months before Barron's birth, the relevant passage was highlighted on screen. Primary objective: avoid personal embarrassment and maintain public approval trajectory heading into next cycle. Recommend full media management protocol. There is no mention of national security anywhere in your team's communications, Mr. President. Not in the emails, not in the memos. Not in any of the documents we've reviewed tonight. Not one word. Trump froze. His mouth opened. No argument came. His new defense had collapsed in real time, in front of millions of people, under the weight of his own team's paperwork. He lowered himself back into the chair, slowly, like a building settling. His chest heaved in long, ragged pulls. His shirt was dark at the collar. His hands lay flat on the desk, still. The first truly quiet moment of the entire evening fell over Studio 8H. No murmurs, no gasps, no shifting, just the sound of the most powerful man in the country breathing hard under television lights, surrounded by evidence and running out of words. Backstage, the walls had already come down. Trump's team had fractured the second Melania's audio hit the monitors. Staffers moved in opposite directions at once, phones raised, voices overlapping and canceling each other out. 2 lawyers in dark suits pushed through the stage entrance from the side corridor, papers in both hands, moving fast toward the man in the chair. Colbert looked directly into the center camera. "If there is nothing to hide, Mr. President, the DNA test will say so. The American people are not asking for drama. They are asking for the truth. No more secrets, no more arrangements, just the facts." Trump leaned toward the microphone one final time. His voice came out hoarse, dry, scraped, hollow. "This is all lies. We will fight this. My family is strong. We have been through worse than this, and we will get through this too." The words were right. The delivery was not. The engine behind them had given out. The studio erupted in applause, loud, sustained, complicated, not purely celebratory, not purely condemnatory. The sound of an audience that had just witnessed something they hadn't asked to see and couldn't pretend they hadn't. Colbert gave a small, measured nod. He thanked the audience. He thanked the viewers at home. He closed the segment the way he had opened it, calm, controlled, precise. The on-air light faded to dark for a commercial. Trump stood slowly. He didn't speak to anyone. His team surrounded him in a moving cluster of lowered voices and urgent gestures, but he moved through them without engaging, across the stage toward the exit, past the curtain at the edge of the set. He stopped there, just at the threshold. He turned his head back toward the desk where Colbert was already speaking quietly with his producer, and he looked at him across the length of the empty studio floor. The look lasted 3, maybe 4 seconds. It wasn't just fury. Anyone who saw it would have described it differently later. Some would say it was hatred. Some would say it was something colder than hatred. But underneath all of it, barely visible, there was something else. Real fear. Then he stepped through the curtain and was gone. The house lights came up. The audience moved slowly, the way people move after something seismic. Phones appeared. Messages were already being sent before the first person had reached the aisle. By the time the building emptied, the clip of Ivanka's unfinished sentence was already being watched in millions of separate rooms across the country. "Daddy, we already agreed to..." The lights in Studio 8H dimmed one by one. Outside, the city kept moving the way cities always do. But inside those walls, where the cameras had rolled and the truth had finally, loudly broken the surface after 20 years underwater, the air sat heavy and still and full of a question that had no comfortable answer. How many more secrets were still out there? And who would be the next one willing to open the folder?